What's up, humans, and welcome to a late night Psicoactivo on a Friday. Happy Friday, everybody. Okay, so we have seen many different responses to the Wall Street Journal article, but we hadn't seen responses from people like Jesse Michels or Ross Coulthart. Ross was on Reality Check with Mario Woods and Rob Heatherly, and they spoke about conflicting dates of this electromagnetic pulse technology. I think it was Rob Heatherly who found that this technology wasn't patented until the 70s, not the 60s. There's one data point that I think it's interesting to note. The whole conversation with Mario Woods also adds credibility to everything that's been happening between these personnel and nuclear weapons and their sightings and all of that. Mario Woods has one of the most interesting stories of both contact and abductions that I've ever seen. I'm trying to get him on the show. We actually already text each other, and he's really cool. So hopefully, I can get him on the show. But I think that there's going to be more people coming out that were involved with this, that have been testifying, that have been giving their accounts of what happened to them. And it's just as Jesse said, because Jesse also made a debunk of this debunk, and it is pretty lazy debunking, in my opinion. But Jesse had to go to the jugular because he just found out something that I was not expecting. And I think it's really interesting to make a correlation that I think people should know about. Because Jesse, as you guys know, he has many connections. And apparently, he had been speaking to one of the owners of News Corp, which owns the Wall Street Journal. And this person put him in contact with one of the editors, a woman, and he was trying to get her to write something about UFOs on the Wall Street Journal, but he couldn't. He says, and that this woman told him that there is some kind of mysterious force that was preventing them from publishing anything about this. And then this article came out, and one of the responses that was really funny and curious was that this woman named one of the people at NASA who is apparently their go-to guy for UFOs. And this person is well known as a skeptic of UFOs. He was part of the NASA committee that is investigating UAP right now. And he was also in a recent, like this year, I think, episode of Neil deGrasse Tyson's show, completely dismissing UFOs. I'm obviously talking about David Spergel, who is a NASA committee chair, and he's been just like really skeptical, very much similar to what people like, for example, Carl Sagan in the past was at a certain point, Bill Nye, the science guy, and obviously one of the biggest debunkers of his era, the astronomy department director, former director, Donald Howard Menzel, who is part of a very interesting story that is called, and it's known as the Menzel conspiracy. And what this guy did was that he got rid of one third of the plates that told a story of some object that was found at a certain point in the universe. And he gave the order to get rid of these plates that proved that there was an object there. I have some supporting interviews to show you from different places, just small clips. But I am going to show you first what Jesse said about the Wall Street Journal and this specific exchange he had with this editor.
To publish this article for no apparent reason. Serendipitously, I had just met a very friendly vice president at News Corp, which owns the Wall Street Journal. So I offered to help advocate for the publication of this op-ed by getting an introduction to one of the managing editors of the Wall Street Journal's opinion section. This woman was named Lena Bell. She was very nice and earnest, and I have no reason to believe she cares about anything but the truth. We had
Lena Bell, remember the name. And see what she tells Jesse about Spergel.
A great exchange. I even met her in person at the Wall Street Journal headquarters. I told her about my own interest in the subject. I suggested that it would be great if more mainstream credentialed journalists were interested. I even said that she should read UFOs and Nukes by Robert Hastings if she wanted to learn more about the government's history with UFOs. We followed up, but it seemed like she was powerless in helping getting this opinion piece published. There was some undetectable dark matter at play, stopping this opinion piece from getting published. Just think about it. Even if you can't fully verify that there's a hidden UFO program, obviously that's a tall order, shouldn't a former cabinet member saying anything about unidentified flying objects immediately be worthy of publication?
By the way, this op-ed that Jesse was trying to get published had a former cabinet member talking about UFOs, and it wasn't. So this is what Jesse's talking about. It's pretty big.
Even if you then run a story saying that that former cabinet member is crazy. When I politely expressed my confusion around this, I was told something very telling. Lena told me that a guy named David Spergel is their de facto advisor on UFOs. And he says that UFOs are all space trash, light reflections, and temperature inversions. This is almost exactly what past UFO debunkers like Don Menzel would say in the 50s.
First of all, the objects are not.
So this is where I think is the heart of the story. And let's go to Mr. Menzel first, because I want you guys to see what he was like as a debunker and what he was like when he was talking about UFOs.
They want to believe, they're happy believing, let them go on believing. I think it's a great waste of time and money to spend much more time investigating it.
Diametrically opposed to Dr. McDonald's views is Dr. Donald Menzel, astronomer with the Harvard College Observatory at Cambridge, Massachusetts. He has made a personal crusade of debunking UFO sightings.
To go on for year after year trying to prove whether or not these things come from outer space or not. It's clear that they don't. And I'm quite sure that that will be the result of any investigation.
Okay. So now I'm going to play you another clip from David Spergel, just so you see some similarities there.
The search for life is a really important theme. We haven't found life beyond Earth yet, right? I mean, let's be clear about this. We haven't found it yet, but we're looking, and we're looking for it in lots of different ways. You know, is NASA hiding anything about this? No. This is actually what, answering this question is one of the things.
I'm sorry, but this really reminds me of Mike Gold at the hearing saying that NASA is a paragon of truth and transparency. And I don't know about you guys, but NASA historically has been lying about a lot of stuff. They've been photoshopping images, taking stuff out of the International Space Station feeds. Who knows what else they've been doing, but they don't tell the truth. That is the reality.
Things that NASA as an agency is excited about. I think one of the things that makes this question of are we alone such a central question, not just to the scientific community, it's a central question, I think, for the public. I suspect there are more people watching this than the typical episode of NASA TV, right? And this is something where we will have media coming to the press conference, because these questions touch on something that I think is really a deep question for humanity: is, are we alone in the universe?
He's not wrong about that, I'm telling you. But you guys know already the recent news from this year, that was from 2 years ago, of James Webb discovering something, and potentially even life, potentially, not confirmed, but potentially. So a lot has happened in the last 2 years. I wonder what Mr. Spergel thinks now about this. I played you two clips, one of Spergel and one of Menzel, because I want to show you what Menzel did in 1952 when he arrived at the Harvard Astronomy Department as the director. And I'm going to play you a clip from a really interesting interview that my friend from Kill the Stigma, Christian Morales, he pointed me towards this interview of Richard Dolan with Dr. Beatriz Villarroel. And they speak about the Menzel conspiracy. And what Dr. Villarreal is saying is really, really interesting. And I got to show you guys.
So in 1952, the Harvard Astronomy or the observatory got a new director in September or October. I don't know exactly when, but it was September, October, who came in and directly, like, the first thing he did was to destroy 1/3 of the plate collection.
1/3 of the plate collection destroyed by the new incoming director of the Harvard Observatory. And that man was, do you give his name or shall I?
I think you should do it.
That man is Dr. Donald Menzel. Of course, the famous Harvard astronomer of the 1950s and 60s who ran the observatory for, I think, 15 years, right? And he came in at that time. He was, of course, the world's premier UFO debunker for many, many years, for his lifetime, essentially.
The Washington flap also, and it was calling it temperature inversion. So it started looking like quite funny.
So Menzel comes in September, October 1952, and this is something I had never known, but began destroying a certain amount of this priceless collection of astronomical data. And also, and I know we're going to discuss this.
So this is where Dr. Villarreal's work becomes so important, because she found the same plates that Menzel destroyed at Harvard, but taken from a different system. And she found this object that Dr. Menzel got rid of. And he effectively destroyed evidence that proved an object was there in the images. If I can find the images, I will share them here as I speak to you guys. But I think this is a really important aspect that you guys need to understand. What role do these scientists from the establishment play in the debunking and perpetuating the stigma of the topic? And to this day, it still happens. People don't want to accept it, but people like Mr. Spergel or Neil deGrasse Tyson or other scientists who are very, very skeptical about UFOs, and they just don't even want to debate. They just say that they're BS. Some of them are compromised, I believe, and some of them are part of this system that, as you guys can see, Jesse found a link between the Wall Street Journal and this group of skeptical scientists who don't even want to entertain the idea of UFOs at all. And they remain skeptical, and they have authority, and they have this power because entities like the Wall Street Journal give them the power as well. So it's like a symbiotic relationship, but also very toxic, because they're not dealing completely in truth. They're dealing in skepticism.
Prevented the Harvard, I don't even know how this works, but he prevented Harvard from collecting new astronomical data for a certain number of years. And this is known among your colleagues as the Menzel gap. Is that correct?
Yes, the survey that was there, like the All Sky survey, was halted for 15 years. So that
15 years. Now, in advance of this conversation, I went to Donald Menzel's Wikipedia page. Wikipedia really downplayed this a lot. I encourage people.
Of course they did. It's Wikipedia. And that's another part of the web of debunking and skepticism around these topics. And it's not just UFOs. When you mention Wikipedia, they do have a specific division that people like Rob Heatherly or Matt Ford go out of their way to talk about. That, yeah, that's their job. Their job is to debunk stuff and to slap an advice or like a little tag whenever I mention something related to a topic that Wikipedia deems not true or that Wikipedia can rectify. YouTube slaps that label there. if I say interdimensional beings, if I say reptilian beings, if I say Area 51, any of these code words, the algorithm catches them, and YouTube already has a system and a relationship with Wikipedia where they slap that explanation from Wikipedia. But man, growing up in college and a media analysis background that I have, one of the first things they told me is that Wikipedia has never, ever been a reliable source. And yet, many use it as a reliable source. It's not. That's the reality of it. They're kind of like a mafia, if you ask me.
People to go check it out. And they said he went in as a cost-cutting measure for a couple of years. They didn't talk about the destruction of the plates. They only said he prevented for a very few years the collection of new astronomical data. And that was known as the Menzel gap. And when you read Wikipedia, it really makes it seem like we're talking just a couple of years in the 1950s. But in fact, it's much longer than that. It's a 15-year gap. 15 years.
So there is
So between 1952 and 1967, there was no astronomical data collected because Menzel ordered that from Harvard. Fortunately, we have Dr. Villarroel, who has done amazing work, and she knows what she's doing, and she discovered this. But this is for you guys just to realize how complicated this arena can be. And kudos to Jesse for getting that data point. That was really cool. And I just wanted to give you a little bit more context about what's going on and the reactions from this Wall Street Journal article. And just so you know how compromised these entities are when it comes to UFOs. But let me know what you think in the comments. I'm going to leave a link in the description for the entire Jesse Michels video, which is pretty amazing, but I just wanted to focus on this specific little tidbit about Spergel and Menzel and that connection. I want to give a shout out to Richard Dolan for doing amazing work. I'm trying to get him back on the show. I hope I can do it soon. And shout out to Jesse for this video. It was really great. But let me know what you think. If you like the content you see, I'm going to ask you to like, share, comment, subscribe, and hit the bell icon. That only costs you a few seconds, and it's free, and it is what helps us the most. So thank you for that. But if you want to support us in any other way, there are a few links down there. You can become a member, or you can support us on the KGRA website. Anything you choose to do is always appreciated, so thank you. That's it for me today on this video, but I'll see you guys in the next one. Remember, stay curious and inquisitive always. Bye.